Hey guys, welcome back to Token Tech. Today I want to talk about my first 10 days or 2 weeks on Linux. So first things first, I have made the switch from Ubuntu to Linux Mint. A lot of you gave me tons of suggestions, all different distros of things I should try out, but as a new user to Linux, I think taking a more user-friendly approach of Linux Mint is definitely something for me to try out. I do think eventually I'll get around to trying all of these different distributions, but for now, I'm going to get my feet wet with Linux Mint. Now, why did I install Ubuntu to begin with? Well, in the last video, I talked about how other distros wouldn't install, and the only one that did was Ubuntu 18.04 LTS. Well, someone in that comment section answered right away with the solution to that, which was to check if I had fast boot enabled in my BIOS. I went in there, and of course, that was enabled by default. Switched that to disable, and well, there you go. I could install other distros like Linux Mint 19.2. So that's what I'm running right now. I believe I have already updated the kernel and things like that, but yeah, so that's what I'm running. I'm enjoying this much more than Ubuntu. I like the desktop environment way more. I think it looks prettier as well. And I haven't really had any issues with it except for small things that I think would be issues no matter where I went. So the first issue was more annoying than an issue, which was getting the computer to always boot to 1080p 144 hertz. I personally enjoy gaming at high refresh rates, so constantly it reverting back to 60 hertz every time I restarted my computer was getting to be quite annoying. Of course, I could switch it once the computer was booted up. That's an extra step, and when you're rebooting your computer a couple times a day and you just want to get in and play your games, it was getting to be a bit annoying. However, quick and easy, 15 seconds later, I had the answer after Googling it, which was to figure out which display out was going to my actual display, and then putting in a startup command that basically forced that display out to run at 1080p 144 hertz. And now I don't have to mess with any settings every time I restart my computer. Really easy, really simple, and again, I have to thank the Linux community for having that fix. Again, I didn't even have to do anything. Someone else already had that problem, and it was already documented on how to fix it. Super smooth and super easy. And to be honest, I can't even really knock Linux for this because in Windows, it's not that simple and straightforward either. I'm sure there are tons of people on Windows who are running their PCs at 60 hertz even though they have a higher refresh rate monitor because they just don't realize they have to go and configure that in a couple menus deep into the settings. So my second issue was getting pSensor to work with my motherboard. So I downloaded pSensor because I wanted to test some temperatures, some thermals, and it wasn't working. Turns out it's an issue with Asus motherboards, and once I figured that out, I was able to find that there was a GitHub user who posted all the software up there and some basic instructions on how to make a kernel module so that it would actually be able to read the temperatures off of this motherboard. I have a Crosshair 6 Hero X370 Ryzen motherboard, AM4 motherboard, and now I can see temperatures, and now I can do thermal testing, which if you've seen any of my other videos, you'll know that I do quite a bit of thermal testing with the new Ryzen 3000 chips, and it's something that I plan to get back to in just a couple days, so stay tuned if you want to see more of that. To be honest, that's been it. Those are my only issues I've had with Linux thus far. Everything else works very well. It's funny because my download speeds have gone through the roof. So I pay for a gigabit connection here, and under Windows, sometimes I get close to like 600 megabits, per second, but I would never really see that whole gigabit, and I thought that was on Verizon's side. Well, now under Linux, I'm getting like a whole gigabit out of it. And before anyone comments, yes, in Windows, I did have the drivers downloaded for my Ethernet with the motherboard and all that good stuff. So I don't know what the difference is, but it's working much better under Linux. My download speeds have gone through the roof. All my gaming has been working out just fine, personally. I've downloaded all the games that I have that support Linux from Steam and Lutris for Overwatch. Everything is working just fine, as I said before. Of course, that's going to depend on you, right? I am not the heaviest user. I'm pretty flexible. I'm fine with using alternatives. I'm fine with not playing certain games. For me, gaming is more of a social thing. I like playing games with my friends, so as long as I can do that, and I can, it's really not that big a deal for me. I don't need to play all the newest games, all the AAA games, at least not right away, because they're just too expensive, in my opinion. I'd rather wait a year or two when they're cheaper, and then I'll play it then. It's not that big of a need for me. And hopefully by then they'll either have a Linux version, have a Proton version, or have a Lutris version that will allow me to play that game. Or maybe I just won't play it. And for a lot of you out there, and I'm sure a lot of you watching this video, you just dual boot, and there's nothing wrong with that. When you want to play a game that's a Windows exclusive, you pop over onto your Windows 10 install, and everything else you do in Linux, which is totally fine as well. Or there's also like VFIO and virtual machines and all that cool stuff that you can mess with as well if you really want to do different things that are exclusive to Windows. For me, I haven't had that need yet, but perhaps I might in the future, and I'll go ahead and give that a shot. As you can tell, I'm not completely clueless when it comes to Linux. So a lot of you in the comment section were suggesting different people I should watch to get, to know Linux a little bit better, and a lot of whom I've already been watching. So a lot of you suggested like Level 1 Linux or Level 1 Tech. I've been watching them since they were part of Tech Syndicate. So I love Wendell. I love his whole group over there. I love the Linux content they do, and I've been paying attention to them for a long time. You also suggested the Linux Gamer, and I've been watching him for a long time. Back when he had really poor like camera quality, bad lighting. He used to record his videos standing up. All the way back then, I used to watch his stuff. I'm talking like 4 or 5 years ago at this point. It must be. So this change for me has been a long time coming. It wasn't out of the blue. It wasn't on a whim. It was something that I wanted to do for a couple years, and I had been slowly moving that direction, but just not taking the plunge. The big thing, as you know, was gaming. I wanted to make sure I could play the games that I did want to play in Linux. Also, I was afraid that maybe what I wanted to do wouldn't work in Linux. Basically, fears based in nothing. There was no real evidence to show that anything I needed to do didn't work in Linux, except for the fact that I just was afraid of trying it. Luckily for me, Windows got so bad for me personally that I had to make the switch, and I'm glad I did. I feel much better. I like using my computer so much more now. The quality of life is through the roof, and knowing that my computer works for me and not the other way around definitely makes me feel better about using it. Anyways, that's going to be it for me, guys. Thank you for watching this video and watching my last video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And stay tuned for more videos about my experience and journey through Linux and some hardware stuff. I do have some stuff planned for the next week or so. Anyways, I'll catch you guys in the next one.